This is ContraZoom.
where we go back and forth about film.
I'm Dakota Arsenault.
And I'm Jeff Homer.
The 98th Academy Awards nominations were just announced, and Jeff and I are here to kick off the final stretch of award seasons by giving you our thoughts on the big winners, losers, and the shape of the race to come. Now, Jeff, as far as I'm aware, I saw you posting online that you basically have now seen almost all of the nominated films. You are such a great student at finishing your death race early. So where do you stand overall?
I'm missing 4. I think I'm missing The Ugly Stepsister, which I was really excited to watch this weekend, but I just didn't have the time. Cutting Through Rocks, um, one other doc, and then Viva Verdi. Uh, all of which I know how to watch. I have access to them, but it's been a really, really busy week. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to do much the last couple of days.
That's pretty solid. I have not counted yet. I've seen all the Best Picture nominations, which, is pretty easy. This year, I feel like we know which were the front runners, and I feel like I'm doing pretty solid overall, but there's definitely quite a few I'm missing. I think removing the shorts, I have about 20 films to watch. Now, most of those do come from the fact that I haven't seen any of the documentaries and only one of the animated films. That takes up almost 50% of the ones I still need to see. But I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. Would you say so?
I think so. I think there's a few that are a little difficult to find because they're no, just because of how theatrical distribution currently works for some of these movies. But I think for the most part, there's not that many that are going to be problems. I know that some people may be kicking themselves right now in North America because Kokuho had a 1-day limited engagement in IMAX the day before we're recording this, and I don't know when it will again. It
Yeah.
probably will, but it's one of those where it's like, yeah, you'll probably be able to see it, just don't know when yet.
What a weird way for them to release this.
I
Like,
I think I've talked about it before. This is G Kids, and I don't understand G Kids' approach to releasing films. They're like halfway between a Fathom Events style, special engagement and actual releases. I don't actually remember the last full release they did because I think the biggest release they've most recently done was the Shin Godzilla re-release, which was like a week-long limited engagement. And other than that, maybe 100 meters, which might have gone for a full week, but I think was just a weekend. So I don't
hmm.
fully understand their approach to releasing.
Which is odd because now that it has an Oscar nomination, there's going to be a whole bunch of people clamoring to try to watch it. Or if they had waited till the week after the nominations came out, they probably would have doubled their money.
Well, they might. I wonder if they were waiting for this Oscar nomination to announce something. So,
Maybe.
maybe in the next day or two, we find out that there is a bigger release or even just a bigger event release that they're going to do.
Yeah, a whole 2 days.
Maybe.
All right. Well, let's sort of talk about maybe some of the bigger stories of the Oscars. Sinners was the big winner of the night of the day so far, going into the Oscar race, the final stretch, with a record-breaking 16 nominations, which has surpassed Titanic, La La Land, and All About Eve, which had 14, which is interesting because you can't even say they're not that you would say that they're a nomination merchant in a bad way because casting is now a new category which they obviously got nominated for. They surpassed it by 2, so they really have the record for sure. They can't just say that they have the record because of casting. What are your thoughts of sort
Mhm.
of Sinners leading the pack here?
I think that's awesome. I mean, that was my favorite movie of last year. And I've been hoping to rewatch it, and I have not had the chance yet. And like they keep re-releasing it in IMAX, so hopefully they'll do it again, so I can see it again that way. Otherwise, it's not like it's hard to watch at this point. I think it's on Crave, so I will watch it again before the actual award ceremony. But I'm very happy with that. and I think it's a really cool success story for a lot of different reasons. But in particular, the one that sticks with me is this came out in March, and it managed to still have it managed to pull through the entire year, which is very hard for movies to pull off more often than not. Like something that releases in January for awards, January is a dead zone, kind of for a reason. I mean, I guess a lot of reasons, but it's hard to hold on to momentum for that long. And with Sinners releasing in March, I remember thinking around the beginning of the summer, it's a great movie, but I wonder if it's starting to lose steam, and it was not.
Mhm. Yeah, there was a bit of concern about whether or not some of the categories that ended up getting nominated in were gonna make the cut. I know it sort of seemed like Michael B. Jordan was a lock always to get a nomination, but, going into this week, there was a little bit of chatter of, will they ignore his performance in this film? Thankfully, they didn't, but then the other ones were Delroy Lindo and Wunmi Musaku, sorry, for supporting actor and supporting actress, that they could have easily been, just on the outside of the top 5, but they ended up making the cut.
I think Delroy Lindo was actually, at least for me, that was a bit of a surprise, like a pleasant surprise,
Mhm.
but I didn't, I mean, I'm not very good at these predictions anyway, so the fact that I didn't predict him doesn't necessarily mean much, but, I wouldn't have thought of him being on the final list, and, like I said, very pleasantly surprised that he is.
Mhm. I agree as well. I'm very happy that it got into visual effects. I didn't think it was going to get in, just because there are flashier films usually that they go for, but I'm
Mhm.
glad the work of using 2 Michael B. Jordans and sort of the way they, I think, are pushing that aspect forward, they did I'm very happy that they nominated them in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. I agree entirely.
Let's move over to the film with the second most nominations, and that is One Battle After Another. And is it a little odd to say that a film with 13 nominations, one that is now one shy of passing the all time acting nominations record because it had 4 Oscar nominations for their actors, 13, which in most years would be the most in a given year, is One Battle After Another now considered not the front runner anymore?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I feel like after Sinners, maybe not. Although,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, maybe it isn't the front runner anymore because I definitely was thinking of it as the front runner, but and this is maybe weird to say, like, I mean, you just pointed out it has 13 nominations, almost the most ever. I mean, Sinners is the most ever, but almost, it's almost on par with, like, Titanic, and I actually thought that this maybe underperformed in some categories. Like, Chase Infinity wasn't there, and I know that she was never necessarily a lock, but she was one that I would have expected more over some of the people who did get into that category. Um, not I don't think Regina Hall was expected to be there, but I do think she has had some awards love in different places. So, it's almost weird to say, but I think in certain places this sort of like underperformed, which is very strange to say about something that got 13 nominations.
No, I'm right there with you because you could have easily seen either Chase Infinity or Regina Hall in this race as well, or even both of them too, because they would have in different
Mhm.
categories, and really set the record for the most acting nominations ever. But yeah, it is funny to think that maybe a film with 13 nominations is not considered a front runner. I still think it is because while Sinners has more nominations, um, I still sort of think that One Battle After Another has the momentum right now. We'll see as more award shows happen, but we might be looking at a situation where the film with the most nominations, which doesn't always win Best Picture, might happen again this year.
I wanna say, and I know we're gonna so I'm gonna say my biggest surprise, and I don't think that's one of the things that we came prepared to say, so I don't think I'm speaking out of line here, but I just wanna know if you agree. I was very surprised by how well, the Norwegian film Sentimental Value did. Pleasantly surprised, but I think you might have the final tally. I kept seeing it pop up in places that I was not expecting it. I expected it to do very well, especially for an international film. I did not expect it to do as well as it did.
No, that's a little bit true, where it sort of felt like it was the same, 4 or 5 movies being announced over and over again, which is going to get a little bit boring. If you've seen the 10 Best Picture nominees, you're gonna be able to cross off almost everything this year. Yeah,
Mhm.
Sentimental Value ended up with 9 nominations, a film I really adored. So I'm very happy about this, and the fact that it got 4 acting nominations as well is pretty crazy, tying it with One Battle After Another. So I was very happy. There was definitely some surprises here. Um, uh, I think Elle Fanning was probably the biggest surprise. A lot of people
Mhm.
expected the other 3 for Renata Reinsve, Stellan Skarsgård, and Inga Ibsdotter Lilias. But yeah, I think Elle Fanning was a bit of the surprise coming in here.
Mm.
Other than that, like I think if you take away the 4 acting nominations, it doesn't have that many, but, it really does make it seem like it has a lot more.
I'm a little worried about Elle Fanning in actress in a supporting role because on the one hand, I'm very pleasantly surprised by that. I loved her in that movie. I really liked, especially the way that she was able to portray an actress who is just very much out of her depth in kind of every respect. Um, but I think if Elle Fanning had not been there, had not been in this lineup, Inga Ibsdotter Lilius probably I would say would have been maybe the front runner for actress in a supporting role. And with Elle Fanning and Inga Ibsdotter Lilius both there, I worry about them splitting the vote a bit. And I don't think it's quite as clear of a case as like Daniel Kaluuya a few years back, where he was also him and Lakeith Stanfield were there, but there was not really any danger of him of that vote getting split too hard. Although actress in a supporting role is very strong anyway, so I don't know if I'm totally on base.
It is a strong category, but I still sort of feel like it's Teyana Taylor's to lose at this moment.
Yeah.
But no, I hear what you're saying. They're not gonna coalesce around one performance as much as we've seen in the past where there are multiple nominees, in one
Mhm.
category. That might even happen a little bit with the actor in the supporting role in terms of One Battle After Another. Will that affect both Sean Penn and Benicio del Toro?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was just thinking about that too.
Mhm.
Um, and but then again, also an actor in a supporting role, I think it's Stellan Skarsgård's to lose. So, you know, interestingly enough, the front runner in the category where One Battle After Another has 2 nominees is From Sentimental Value, and the front runner in the category where Sentimental Value has 2 nominees, I think, is One Battle After Another.
Yeah, that is kind of funny to say that like that. I agree with you. Um, So there's a few other things I kind of want to hit on our thoughts here. We can't go any further without bringing up the Diane Warren of it all. She continues her impressive streak of getting nominated. I don't have the number in front of me, but I think this is what the 7th or 8th year in a row that she's now been nominated, and something like her 14th nomination, I think it is. I'm pulling it. Oh,
It's
17th.
her 17th overall.
Wow. Yeah, she has never won. She once again gets nominated for Best Original Song, this time for the song called Dear Me, which is from the movie Diane Warren Relentless, which is, yes, a documentary about herself. So anyone that is an Oscar death racer like we are, you are very familiar with Diane Warren and the annual how did this get nominated here part because of her respect within the songwriting community. But you have seen Diane Warren Relentless. So how about you fill us in a little bit about your thoughts on her getting another nomination?
So, I think that even if Diane Warren Relentless had not been nominated, for anyone who is into the Oscars, and especially for people who are death racers, it is kind of essential viewing. It is a very, very good. It's a very good documentary. It's not perfect, but it is. It's not it is a biopic about Diane Warren and why she is so respected in the American music industry. But beyond that, especially near the end of the documentary, it's a very good sort of inside baseball documentary about her process and her being nominated at the Oscars every year. It's very it's a very cool kind of how the sausage gets made meta thing about this thing that we're all passionate about. Um and I want to shout out one of my friends, Mark Morgan, who lives over in Nottingham and watched it as well. And he has a very, very good 2-star review of it on Letterboxd, where he sort of talks about one thing that he points out is you see in this documentary sort of how she comes up and why she is incredibly respected for being an incredible songwriter. But then near the end, once she starts to get sort of obsessed with getting this Oscar, which I think you can look at her discography and comfortably say that that's not the only thing that drives her forward in life. But watching the documentary, it is definitely a major thing that she is very interested and very committed to trying to get. But near the end of the documentary, you see her sort of try to play much more into those typical Oscar bait tropes in a way that is kind of detrimental to a lot of the songs that she ends up submitting to films. And like I said, Mark Morgan on Letterboxd has a very good review of that, where he says it much more eloquently than I do. But I think that looking at that process and seeing what it looks like to be someone who probably should have an Oscar now and is really committed to making that happen, what that looks like from, especially someone like me who is I am now at the point in my life where I know people in the industry, but I will never be at that point where I, am experiencing that first or even second hand. So seeing it through a documentary is really, really interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, this is one I'm curious to watch for sure. I wouldn't say I'm excited, but I'm curious to watch. Do you think it stands any chance at dethroning Golden to win Best Original Song, though?
I think I think that in best original song, it's Golden's to lose. I would actually be a little shocked if anything could beat Golden. I think that the second one is the one like the if it's not Golden, it goes to I Lied to You, which I know is a lot of people's favorites. It's my favorite too, but we're talking about a generational hit versus an incredibly good film song, which is, which there's a lot of good stuff, but it's Golden's to lose. And I would be and I mean, this is what I think one of the better years for Diane Warren songs. No, no, maybe next year. I don't think it's this year.
Yeah, when she gets her 10th nomination, or let me count this here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is her ninth in a row. So yeah, maybe her 10th in a row she'll get it.
Mhm.
And 18th overall. Oh my god, so crazy. She does have her honorary Oscar though, so it's not like she doesn't have an Oscar at all.
Yeah, but I don't think she counts that one. Like
No, it's not real. It's not competitive.
it's not competitive.
Yeah. Okay, a couple other rapid fire things I want to sort of shout out here. I was very surprised that Jurassic World Rebirth got nominated for VFX, and F1 took the spot for the popcorn movie this year over Avatar: Fire and Ash in Best Picture. What are your thoughts on those two quickly?
Well, I mean, I've seen F1, so that's nice, but,
Hmm.
I'm very surprised at F1 getting into Best Picture. I thought it was I mean, it's a car movie, so I expected it to be in something like sound. Car movies always do well in sound, but I did not expect it to be in Best Picture, and, I mean, I'm sad because I really, really liked Avatar, and I thought, you never bet against Jim, so I thought it would be in Best Picture. I'm glad it's there, like, period, but, I'm a little sad that it's not in Best Picture.
And then your thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth getting into visual effects?
I mean, that's fine. The Jurassic World movies have decent visual effects. It's always fun to see dinosaurs. I really liked Jurassic World Rebirth. And maybe it's just because I hated the other Jurassic World movies so much that it was refreshing to have something that like did not connect itself to them that much. I thought it was very much I thought Jurassic World Rebirth was very much in the spirit of like Jurassic Park 3, which is not exactly everyone's favorite, but I really liked it because it's a fun adventure with dinosaurs. And that's what Rebirth was. It's not that deep, but it was a fun movie. And yeah, it looks nice. It's a nice looking movie. I don't know that it would be, number one for VFX, but it's happy to be there, and that's nice.
um, and then yeah, going back to Avatar: Fire and Ash, it only ended up getting 2 nominations, which seems quite surprising, considering how well the previous 2 Avatars have done. This is the first time it did not get into Best Picture. It only got a visual effects nomination and a costume design. I feel like the costume design is definitely the most head scratching, probably nomination of the whole
It's
bat.
got good costumes though, so I
Yeah.
don't know why it would be that big of a deal. Like, it makes sense.
Are they not mostly CGI though?
They are created and then, scanned in.
Okay, interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. So are you surprised that it only ended up getting 2 nominations and not sort of getting a whole bunch of below the line ones?
Yeah, I am. This Avatar movie is drastically underperforming in every way compared to what Avatar usually does. I think it took it maybe 2 weeks to get or it took it not a little more than a week, I think, to get to $1 billion. And it's not doing it only got did you say it only got 2 nominations? It
Yeah, only
didn't
2.
yeah, it didn't tear up the below the line nominations. So, I mean, the times are changing, I guess, but it's a little surprising.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It definitely is a little funny to hear you say that it took a week for it to get $1 billion, and that's considered poor.
Yeah, it's those movies do really, really well, and this one is I think it's only at 1.3 billion right now, which is still under The Way of Water. But The Way of Water also re-released recently, so I don't know. I think those numbers are counted in there. Big Jim will be fine.
That is true. Jim Cameron will be fine. Whether or not we get more avatars, that will be to seen
Well,
later.
I believe he's going to finish the story.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the international film category. There was a thought that Neon might end up getting all 5 nominations because they've just been on a buying spree this past year of getting all the big international films. Instead, they do get 4 of the 5, which is, nonetheless still very impressive, with the only non-Neon film getting in is The Voice of Hindra Job. But the big one that didn't get in was No Other Choice. It's a little surprising. I was recently on Paulo Bautista's podcast, the Oscars Death Race podcast, and I talked about how very rarely do all of the big international films get in. They do like to spread the love and nominate films from countries that don't normally produce movies, or at least don't normally produce them at the rate or budget that some of the other countries do. And obviously, The Voice of Hindra Job sort of fills that boat. But the other 4 nominees are all quite big in terms of production value in the countries that they come from. What are your overall thoughts on the international film category?
I mean, I like all of these films. I'm disappointed No Other Choice isn't there. I'm not surprised. For whatever reason, the Academy seems to really hate Park Chan-wook. I don't know why, but he's never been nominated, or nothing that he's made, I think, has ever been nominated for an Academy Award. And he's publicly gone back and forth a little bit with the Writers Guild of America as well, which is not the Academy, but they're all in like there's probably a lot of overlap. I know there's a lot of overlap. So I'm disappointed because I really liked that movie, and if it was up to me, I think that I would have loved to see Lee Byung-hun in lead actor too. But I'm not totally surprised that it's not represented here.
Yeah, he does not have any Oscar nominations for any of his films. I just double checked it. I was unsure about Decision to Leave and The Handmaiden, which probably would have been the only ones that would have gotten nominations from his career. And yeah, he doesn't have any, which is definitely very surprising. But you're right. For some reason, the Academy does not like Park Chan Wook, and I don't know why. Considering their love for other, odd filmmakers in the international community, I feel like he sort of slots in very nicely with some of his contemporaries, and for
Mm.
some reason they just don't get his stuff. Maybe I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I wish I could even speculate, but I really don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's very odd, but this is an absolutely stacked year for international films, so it is hard to complain. The nominees are The Secret Agent, It Was Just an Accident, Sentimental Value, Surat, and The Voice of Hindrajab. I've seen 3 of the 5, with Surat and The Voice of Hindrajab being the only 2 I haven't seen, and I'm very excited to watch the 2 of them.
You're in for the heaviest too.
Yeah, that is true. Um, the voice of Hindu Job is from a filmmaker that people probably will know of their previous Death Racers, because it is the same director that did Four Daughters, which is one that I really loved, where she sort of blends both documentary realism with narrative devices, and it seems like she's doing the same thing here with the voice of Hindu Job.
I think that the voice of Hindra Job is an evolution of that style that I find, like, at a technical level, I find it incredible. And as a film, I also, I also really, really loved it. I know that there are elements of it that definitely don't work for everybody, and I kind of get that, because the dramatization, I mean, the dramatization is always where something like that is going to either succeed or not. And for me, it really worked. I've seen some very good criticisms of, especially the why the dramatization parts of it don't work. Um, but I think it's a really extraordinary film, and I really hope that more people see it, because it is, like I said, especially at a technical level, I think it's, if nothing else, incredibly interesting.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it is probably the biggest message movie of the group here, that I hope,
Mhm.
because of its nomination, a lot more people are able to check out because of that. It has been on my list for a while to check out. And I will say this about the other international films is The Voice of Henry Job is at a bit of a disadvantage, because the other 4 all have nominations outside of this category, which, a few years ago, that would be completely unthinkable. You would be lucky if one of them has nominations outside of the category, but 4 of them do. The Secret Agent has 4 nominations. It Was Just an Accident, and Surat have 2 each. And as mentioned earlier, Sentimental Value has 9.
Does Surat only have two? I thought Surat had more.
No, just sound and international film.
Oh, well, sound is the one that makes the most sense for Surat. So
Hmm.
you'll you'll enjoy that one. It's whatever you think it is, it's not that. And even while you're watching the movie, it's not that. It's different.
I do know a bit more of it than I probably would like, because I did have to edit a review that was posted on the website. Um, but I don't believe it was fully spoiled for me.
Okay. Well, that's, if I'm never that big of I'm never that concerned about spoilers for my own, for myself, but if I were ever to recommend a movie to go in blind on this year's list, Surat is definitely the one.
Amazing. Good to know for sure. And then the last thing on my list that I really want to touch on is the fact that we have a new category for the first time in, I believe, 25 years, and that is Best Casting. And the nominees this year are Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, and Sinners. None of them really surprise me here. I did expect Sentimental Value to get in over, I don't know, maybe The Secret Agent. What are your sort of thoughts on how the direction of this category is shaping up?
Well, I don't know how this category will go on to affect other categories. Like, I know that previously other casting awards have been used as predictors for, like, best picture. I don't know if that has any, if this casting award will have any bearing on that. We will find out. But in general, I actually really love what the choices in this category. I remember seeing the short list, and one thing that I've been trying my hardest not to throw too much shade, but there was one movie on the casting shortlist, Wicked for Good, where I was like, what is that doing there? I don't understand. Most of the movie was just cast in the previous one. I'm pretty sure they were shot back to back anyway. So what are we nominating Wicked for Good for casting for? And it didn't get nominated. Where the polar opposite of that is Marty Supreme, that I think, at least my understanding of casting is obviously very incomplete because I don't even know any casting agents. I don't know everything that goes into it. But when I saw Marty Supreme, like everyone in that movie, they found the wildest people they could for that movie for like every role. And I'm not even just talking about the named roles. Like the extras are so weird and like they're so weird and wild and memorable that like even Timothy Chalamet has been talking about this random extra during the press tour. He's been talking about like a random extra that they just like found off the street and threatened to kill him. And like there's all these weird stories of just all the people they got, and that to me is what I would really like to see in casting, is where even beyond the main roles you're getting memorable people. You're getting other memorable people on screen. And I think that even I think that like it's notable in casting too, is like all of the nominees for casting are cast movies that got very major acting awards as well, which were also like and I would say deserved in every one of these cases. So we're talking about like movies that have we're talking about really good jobs casting. Like there's none of these. I'm talking a lot about the extras and how much I liked beyond the main roles, but we're also talking about casting agents that like cast perfect people for their main roles clearly, because those main roles are some of the best of the year.
Hmm. Yeah, that's always a sort of tricky thing. Like, do we give one battle after another credit for casting Leonardo DiCaprio? Like, that's kind of a hard thing to give it credit for when that probably was not the casting director's choice. I think this
Well, but
category.
but
Sorry,
hold
go ahead.
on, because the casting director's choice would have been people like Regina Hall, Teyana
Hmm.
Taylor, Chase Infinity, possibly Benicio del Toro. I know that he has worked with Paul Thomas Anderson a few times, but like, you know, that might have been her choice. I think that like when I'm looking at this casting, you're right. It's not we're not we don't give them credit for casting the one person Paul Thomas Anderson wanted to work with anyway, but everything around that is what I think is really great about really all of these films and all the casting in these films.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I sort of liken it to like a Coen Brothers movie where the supporting performances of like a character who's only in one scene and maybe only has a couple lines are so memorable. That's sort of
Mhm.
what I want this casting award to be. Is I want it to be about these really memorable, people that shape the wider world of the film, not just the name faces.
Yeah, actually, the ones that I think of very specifically in One Battle After Another are all villains, but there's one guy who's not even an actor, he's just a military interrogator that they cast to be a military interrogator, and there's another guy who looks almost exactly like him, who they cast to be an assassin who looks like a generic white guy, and the way that they did that, or the way that the casting director, I don't know this from interviews, so I'm guessing, but the way that the casting director did that is she cast everyone around him to look kind of similar to him.
That's funny. I like that. I like that. Okay, well, we're gonna start to wrap it up here. I wanted to ask us to bring to this table what our top three snubs were, and then sort of our top three favorite nominations slash surprises, however you wanted to approach that. So Jeff, what are your big snubs of the night that were, in my opinion, realistic chances to get nominated?
So my number one snub of the night is one that I really, really expected to get nominated. It's a documentary called My Undesirable Friends: Last Air in Moscow Part One. It is now. You might be wondering, why did I think this was realistic? It's 5.5 hours long. Well, it was shortlisted for documentary, and it is probably the best documentary I saw all of last year. It's an episodic documentary about sort of the decline of this Russian independent news organization in Moscow over from about, I want to say, 2019 to the outbreak of the current Ukrainian war. So, and it's really really good. And you know, it's a commitment. I woke up early to watch it one day, but it is it's phenomenal. It's just you care about all of these journalists, and it goes through sort of what life what life in Russia, um, you know, what it was in 2019 and how it has sort of rapidly become something different by 2023, especially for these people who have, throughout their entire careers, been more oppositional voices to Vladimir Putin's government. And I was very sad to not see that in there. There is a movie nominated in documentaries called Mr. Nobody Against Putin, which does a relatively similar thing for a school in a rural Russian village, which is also very interesting for the same reasons. Personally, between the two of them, I would have gone with My Undesirable Friends, so I was very sad that that one missed. But happy that Mr. Nobody Against Putin got in. So, you know, everybody make sure to watch that one because it's also very good.
And did you have any other ones that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so one I already said, I mean, we already talked about No Other Choice. I would have had that in international. I would have even put Lee Byung-hun in Best Actor personally, in a leading role, but no beans. Also, a phenomenal movie, which I believe has a Canadian connection, though don't quote me on that. There's a movie. It was nominated for. It was the international submission from Jordan called "All That's Left of You," which is about the Nakba in Palestine and the after effects, and like 50 years of the after effects of it, just through the eyes of three generations of one family. And it is a phenomenal movie that I mean, I guess there was room for one Palestine movie in international this year, but I would have really, really liked to see that there. It is also nominated this year for the Film Independent Spirit Award for Best International Feature. So if anyone is interested in those, please make sure to give it a watch. And even if you're not interested in that, watch it because it is very, very good. And then finally, I would have said Amanda Seyfried in actor for The Testament of Anne Lee. I think that Searchlight really failed that movie because I think that The Testament of Anne Lee was an incredible movie from Mona Fastwold. That maybe it couldn't have done as well as The Brutalist, but I think it maybe should have done as well as The Brutalist. In terms of nominations, at least. It's a remarkable movie about the Shaker movement in the United States, from its inception, basically. And the main, not necessarily the founder of the movement, but the founder of the American part of the movement, Anne Lee. And Amanda Seyfried is incredible in that. I saw her in like I think I saw her in two, maybe three movies. Oh no, I was trying to think of when I saw her in Seven Veils, which to me would have been her greatest performance up until that point, and I think that this is even better than Seven Veils.
Wow, that's crazy because that is my favorite performance of the year is her in Seven Veils.
I didn't remember if that was this year or last year.
It's one that it got a theatrical release in like February 2025. So if you're going by that metric, it's a 2025 movie, but it did the festival circuit back in 24.
Gotcha. It exists in the phantom zone between years.
Yeah, exactly. As basically all Canadian films do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go over mine quickly. Jafar Panahi for Best Director. I would have loved to see him get recognized there. I thought there was a strong chance. Obviously, this sort of goes hand in hand with it was just an accident not getting into Best Picture as well. So you can sort of pick either one. But I would have really loved for him specifically to get recognition in the Best Director race, considering all the hardship he has gone through to continue to be a filmmaker of his status and his renown. And the output that he's frankly been able to do while under things like house arrest or in actual jail in Iran for not making films that the regime approves of.
Mhm.
I would have loved to have seen Brendan Fraser in Best Actor for Rental Family. I know this was a movie that a lot of people were decidedly mixed on, but I absolutely adored it when I saw it, and I thought he was fantastic. And sort of showed that the critical adoration he was getting for The Whale wasn't just a fluke, and that he sort of continued with these really great, tender performances. And I was just mainly hoping that more people would actually go out and see Rental Family, because it seemed like more people than not just skipped it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I couldn't decide which one, but I basically have two films for original screenplay that I would have loved to have gotten in, because every year there's, in the screenplay categories, there's like a couple films that randomly pop up there and don't show up anywhere else. And so for me, I was kind of hoping that we would get a lone nomination for either Black Bag or Eddington for original screenplay, because I both thought they were excellent works, and would have been happy with either of them there.
I'm not surprised that Eddington isn't anywhere here, but I really would have liked to see it somewhere, and that is exactly where I would have liked to see it.
Hmm.
Um, you know, original screenplay is a good category, though. I can't really complain.
It's tough, yeah. And then let's very quickly go through your sort of favorite nominations slash surprises, however you wanted to pick the ones.
Well, I'm gonna be quick about this because we actually have you know what? Maybe I won't be quick about this. I picked alternates just in case we talked about all of mine, and we did. So I'm gonna go with my alternates. Marty Supreme for casting. That is the one that I am most excited about. I'm really hoping that that one wins because I mean I think I did talk about it a little bit. Marty Supreme, every single character in that, from the named characters to the like random extras who appear for one scene, is just amazing. This is Marty Supreme is basically just uncut gems in a slightly different, with a slightly different setting, and I loved it for that. I thought it was like maybe crazier than uncut gems in some places, and a big part of that is the casting. So I was very happy to see it in casting. I don't think there was ever a chance that it was going to miss anyway, but that's one of my favorite nominations this year for sure. Very excited to see Perfectly a Strangeness in Doc Short. This is a movie that it's Canadian. It's by a Canadian filmmaker, and I just received an email from the representative of that Canadian filmmaker. So I'm hoping that I can set something up the before the Oscars happen. But it's wordless. There's no dialogue in it, and it just follows around some donkeys exploring an area. And I think it's really fascinating when you get. I really like docs like that when they're. I mean, I guess there's hit and miss, but when those docs hit, they really hit for me. Just following around someone and trying to sort of get inside their head. And these are donkeys, so as far as I'm concerned, I will never be able to get inside their head. But it's interesting to try. Um, and the last one that I have here that maybe we didn't talk about yet is Kokuho in Makeup. I'm sad that Kokuho missed International. It was one of my favorite movies of last year, but I'm very happy that it made it into Makeup because that is a big part of the movie. It's about Kabuki, and Kabuki involves its theater with a lot of makeup. So I'm happy that it's recognized for that because the Kabuki in that movie is very well realized, and that includes the makeup. I don't know if you've seen Kokuho. There's one scene that I am wondering if that'll be the clip they show. There's one of the characters gets sick, and the makeup for how he gets sick is uh very it's a lot. It's a lot to take in actually. It's not like especially gross, but it's very well done. And it was probably the most emotional I got in the movie, and the makeup is actually a big part of that. So I was very happy to see that in makeup. Kokuho.
Nice. Yeah, that's fine. When that nomination got announced, I messaged you right away because I knew your love for it, and I knew you'd be happy about that one getting the nomination there. It always sort of felt like a bit of a long shot to get into international. It's probably in the 6 to 8 range, but it is a shame that it didn't get in. I have not seen it yet, but I am very excited to watch it. All right. Well, my nominations that I'm most, happy about, Train Dreams getting in for Best Picture. It sort of felt like it was always gonna make it because there's always, like, a couple smaller films that make the cut, but it wouldn't have surprised me if it didn't, and so Train Dreams getting in here, and frankly, all of Train Dreams nominations, including Best Original Song, I'm very happy about. I
Mhm,
love that movie so much. Elle Fanning in supporting actress. I didn't think she was going to get in. I really liked her performance. I think it's easy to overlook her compared to the other ones, but she has a very specific role to play, and that role is someone that is over their head, and that's a bit of a tricky thing to ask of someone. Of how do you pretend like you're in over your head, but also exude this confidence and aura. And I think Elle Fanning handles it really well.
mhm,
And then lastly, it's for a movie I haven't seen, but I am pleasantly surprised that The Ugly Stepsister got a Best Makeup nomination because horror movies, body horror, things like that, are traditionally completely ignored by the makeup branch, despite the fact that if you were to pick some of the greatest makeup in films of all times, it would come from horror and specifically body horror.
mhm.
So, very happy about that there.
Yeah, the Ugly Stepsister is the one that I am most excited to hopefully get to this weekend. We will see.
All right. Well, let's wrap up things here. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on today to talk about the Oscar nominations.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for setting this up. This was, I, I won't say all the details, but this is an unusually difficult time for me to join this particular call. So
Well, we made it work. And this isn't going to be the last time that you will be on during Oscar season. And we are just getting started. We're going to break down the Best Picture nominees over the next few weeks. We are going to do our predictions. We're going to do our Oscar draft. We're going to do all that fun stuff that you have come to know and expect from ContraZoom Pod. Jeff, thank you once again.
yeah, thank you. I'm really excited. This is this is this is like the beginning of the holidays for me. Except it's also the time when I work most. So not quite, but kind of.
You're not wrong. Yeah. This has been a That Shelf podcast. Visit thatshelf.com for more great film discourse. Follow the show on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at ContraZoomPod. What are your thoughts on the Oscar nominations? Leave a comment on Spotify or send us an email. Thank you to Eric and Kevin Smale for the theme music and to Stephanie Pryor for the logo design. If you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, we do post all episodes there as well. And if you really like the show, consider tipping us on coffee. Thanks for checking us out.